we have a call that's specifically, well, I think, Forrest, you almost requested this kind of call here, but Dan in Florida is saying abortion is murder, which is just, I mean, that's factually wrong. Murder is a specific legal definition, and abortion does not meet that legal definition. But I'll go with the colloquial sense. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan.
Hi, thank you.
So what do you got for us?
Hi, thank you. You may be technically correct in the legal sense.
Oh, I am.
Maybe I misunderstood the question, but you know, my thoughts are we protect all kinds of life, animals, and unborn turtles here in Florida are very protected and very sensitive, and I'm sensitive to all that. We developed a relationship with our 3 children before they were born. We heard their heartbeats.
No, you didn't.
We saw them.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Well, I'm sorry. I felt like I did.
Yeah, I know you felt like you did, but you didn't. The relationship is between 2 people. So in your call screening thing,
can hear me.
So in your call screening thing, you mentioned that killing a bird in a nest or a newborn baby or anything that can't survive without care. A bird in a nest is not a pregnancy. A newborn baby is not a pregnancy. Anything that can't survive without care, yes, I agree, that's a responsibility. And unborn turtles aren't a pregnancy. They're sitting in a nest. What is your justification, I'm wondering, for feeling like you get to force someone else to remain pregnant against their will?
That's a tough issue, I'll admit, and I believe in freedoms, and I recognize that there are very, very tough circumstances where somebody should possibly decide that with the doctor and a lot of maybe counseling with the mom and dad. But my main concern is that we are losing respect for life in general, respect for each other.
So,
and let me ask
I'm sorry to cut you off there, Dan. I just want to ask you, because you mentioned this a minute ago, you said that we protect all life, and now you're saying we're losing respect for life. Which life are you talking about specifically? Because you can say a whole human being, but human beings need to eat to survive, and we're animals. So animals require killing other life forms in order to eat: plants, other animals, fungi, you name it. Do you protect the bacteria life whenever you sanitize your countertops before you cook? Do you protect the life whenever you brush your teeth and you knock out a bunch of cheek cells? Those are human cells with human DNA. Is that life that you need to protect? Like, where do you draw the line on life you need to protect? Because just saying we need to protect life and we're losing the sanctity of life, or none of those words make any sense. Those are just buzzwords that mean nothing.
I got you. Let me give you an example. When
Sure.
a baby is first born, it gets into the rights of 2 living individuals, right? The mother's there and the doctor, and the baby's born.
I think the line is if they're breathing and have a heartbeat is what it is. If I could be wrong about that. Yeah.
Okay. Could I finish my question?
By all means. I'm sorry. I just talked to somebody about this yesterday, and I think that was something that came up with them. So I just wanted to throw it in. Go for it. Yeah.
When the mother and dad are there, the doctor, and the baby's first born, does the mom have the right to kill the child or withhold medical care?
No,
because that would be something totally different.
Disappear.
That would be something totally different.
You're talking about a child being. Hang on. You're talking about a child that is born, which is when it actually has rights. But when you say abortion is murder, you're trying to create special rights for the fetus. And I don't even think even you think it's murder. So, for example, if someone has an abortion in your ideal world where it's murder, what should the penalty be?
Well, I don't know about the semantics. If you want to get into
no, sir, Dan. Dan, this is not semantics. What is the penalty? What should the penalty be in your ideal world for murder?
I really don't know the answer to that.
Do you think there should be a penalty at all?
Do you think murder should be illegal?
I'm trying to answer your question. I think it varies by circumstances.
Do you think that there should be a penalty at all for abortion?
So you think murder is only situationally wrong?
Well, let me give you an example. if God murders somebody,
I didn't know. No, God doesn't
we
exist.
him.
I'm talking about human beings.
I'm with you on that. What I'm saying
No,
is
you're
God
not. You're
said
not with me
murders.
if your first response out of your mouth was if God murders, because murder is a legal construct involving one person wrongfully. Shut up. Murder is a legal concept regarding one person wrongfully taking the life of another. Gods are irrelevant. All I was asking you is what, in your perfect view, should the penalty be for murder? Permanent imprisonment, a good scolding, capital punishment. Which of those is better?
Well, I was trying to answer if you'll let me finish a half a sentence.
I tell you what, you pull some snarky shit like this again, you won't get to speak any further. Answer the question.
I'm just saying, even a God gets a pass on murder. If you believe in a God and you say it's okay to kill people to take Jericho.
Dan, if you bring up God and irrelevant things one more time and in your attempt to avoid answering the questions you've been asked, I will hang up on you. What, in your perspective,
I'm just saying,
what in your perspective should the penalty be for murdering another human being? That's all I've asked.
Okay, most rational people will agree with you that it can vary based on the circumstances. If you're killing one person to save the life of 10 others, I would sacrifice my life, and I think I've heard you say this. You would give your kidney, your lung.
Dan, just stop. Dan, you are incapable of honestly addressing this subject. You don't start, when I ask you what in your ideal circumstances should the penalty be, you started in with most rational people would, and then you describe circumstances where someone voluntarily gives up their life. That's not murder, Dan. I'm asking you, if one human being wrongfully, in violation of the law, kills another human being, what do you personally feel the penalty for that should be?
If I cause the termination of your life to save 10 others, I'm not sure that would be the same penalty.
Goodbye, sir. You cannot honestly address this question, and I will not be wasting my audience's time on you any further. This question was simple and straightforward. In your personal opinion, that was it. In your personal opinion, if one person wrongfully murders another person, what should the penalty be? And then you just dodge and twist. Well, if I did it to save 10 people, that's not relevant. That's not what murder is by definition. I didn't ask about your
frustrating, man. I was excited for that call too. I was like, that could have been so awesome. We could have gotten into such great things.
We could have, because here's the thing, and this is why arguing with anti-choice individuals is so incredibly frustrating. Some of them want to say abortion is murder. Well, they're factually wrong on whether or not abortion is legally murder in the United States right now. It may be in other countries. But but I'm willing to give up on that and say what you're saying is you feel that abortion should be considered murder. And I'm fine with that being your opinion, but then we have to look at what the consequences are. And so we ask, what should the penalty be for murder? Now, there are some people who think the penalty for murder should be you get killed by the state. There are other people who think the penalty for murder should be life in prison. Whatever you think it is, what I find is that the people who want to say abortion is murder tend to have a different standard for one human being killing another human being than they do for one person terminating a pregnancy. Because abortion, by the way, is not killing. It is the termination of a pregnancy in its non-viable state. After that, it becomes a delivery, because we have laws that actually do, despite Dan's accusations to the contrary, set up protections for fetuses. What we're doing, though, is we're granting fetuses special rights that no other human being has, because I don't have a right to use Forrest's liver. I don't have a right to use Arden's kidney. I don't have a right to use my mom's womb. Mm-hmm. And so why on earth would we give those same rights to something that's unborn, that isn't a person? Because it needs it. And most of the time, this is about trying to hold people responsible for sex, as if the only way someone could possibly get pregnant is by carelessness through consensual sex. There are lots of different ways that people can get pregnant. And this notion that, we can just solve this by looking at biology. No, you can't, because the most we can do is probably say, hey, at what point does does the brain develop enough to the point where we would consider it, like a conscious being in there. And as a former friend of mine once pointed out, it doesn't matter if it's in there writing poetry and curing cancer. It still does not have the right to use your body without consent. And I would like to know where people get off saying, hey, we can get together and say, hey, we can force you to stay pregnant against your will. Because the dangerous thing that people need to remember is that the government that can force you to stay pregnant can also force you to get abortions. Once you give up that bodily autonomy, it goes both ways. Destroying bodily autonomy doesn't end abortion. What it ends is freedom. It guarantees that you are no longer sovereign over your body. It's the government that does so. That's it.
You hit a lot of great things there. And honestly, that's what I was expecting, because I get asked all the time, like, well, as a biologist, like, when does life start? When can we say this is a human being? And it's like, dude, I can make a really good argument for and against life starting at fertilization, at implantation, at heartbeat, at breath, at wherever I can make an argument that life never really started, because it started some almost 4 billion years ago, and sperm and eggs are both alive, and it's never really a thing. But none of that matters. 0% of that has any difference at all. Like you said, doesn't matter if they're writing poetry and curing cancer. None of it matters at all. It's just, can I use someone else's body for my benefit? If my mother has the same blood type as me, and I need a blood transfusion, and I plug a needle with a hose coming out into her arm and take her blood, she can pull that tube out, and it would end my life. But that's her body to do that with. It wouldn't be murder in that case.
Yeah.
And what I always like to point to as well is as far as legality is concerned, is organ donation. You have to sign off on that when you're alive. If I die and you need my heart to live and I didn't sign off on it, you don't get it. And now we're both dead.
Yep.
So you're telling me that if you have a uterus, you have less rights than a corpse? That's the best you've got? Like, so frustrating, yo. Yeah. I'm mad about that call. I'm mad about that call. I want more that actually make up for that now, so we can get into it.
I have no problem at all having discussion. I've done debates on abortion. I've had discussions on abortion, but I think, I did a video a couple months ago called Answer the Fucking Question. Because the biggest problem that we have on the Atheist Experience and on other call-in shows and discussions and debates between atheists and secularists and humanists and liberals and progressives and, right-wing, left-wing stuff, is that if you go to the trouble to ask a question that is designed to simplify and clarify, it is incredibly unlikely that you're actually going to get a direct answer to that question. It does happen, but it's very unlikely, because by the time you get to the point where you're asking a question that simplifies and clarifies, that gets to the crux of it, somewhere in the back of people's heads, they're going to see, oh, if I answer this question and answer it honestly, it's going to lead to an outcome that's not going to favor me. And so we get defense mechanisms where your brain starts putting up walls, and you're like, but what about?
Yeah. Because at that point, the argument isn't about who's right. It's about I'm winning, and that's just, it blows.